going on, everybody?
How's it
Welcome
going,
to
everybody?
Happy Sunday.
Happy Sunday. I'm here joined with the talented RJ and Dr. Brian Paul, as always, and we've got a super exciting show for you. We're bringing on Pat Vincent at Blackwork in Borough. I met Pat back when he was working with Blue River in 2019 at Emerald Cup. I was able to sesh it up and have a few dabs with him, and he really struck me as a really educated guy who was about the craft, and I was able to stay in touch with him over the last few years, and really excited to have him on today. So without further ado, I want to bring in Pat and welcome, man. Thanks so much for coming.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys. Happy Sunday. Good to see y'all.
Thanks for coming on, my man.
Yeah, I got to say thank you so much for joining us. Like I said yesterday, you got a busy life. We'll say it right now. You got a baby on the way.
I do.
Hours away from due. So
yeah, due on Friday is the due date. My wife thinks that he's going to be a little bit late, maybe a little bit later. He's our first kid. That's not uncommon. So that's going on. It's really exciting. I'm really stoked about it. So yeah, it's a huge change in my life, a huge change. But yeah, like that's what's going on now. I pretty much, I'm at home. My wife's on leave. So we're pretty much, just getting in baby mode, getting prepped more than anything else.
Man. Well, we really appreciate you taking the time and sliding this interview in, or this session.
No worries, man. No, it's awesome. I feel like I haven't done something like this in a while, and I love doing it. I love talking about, weed and glass and life and whatever. So it's fun for me.
So well, let's start it off the way we always like to start it off, is take us way back. Like where'd you grow up, and what were some of your first experiences with cannabis?
Okay, so I grew up just outside Chicago, about 30 minutes west of the city in the suburbs. I started smoking weed when I was, I don't know, like 13, 14, 15, like in that age, not like all, I feel like by 15, I was smoking weed like a lot, so yeah, I don't know. I grew up there. Weed was super different there. When I was growing up, weed was hella illegal.
what was the quality like?
Honestly, a lot of beasters. There was like a lot of beasters that came in still then when I first started smoking. I feel like, the first time I bought like good weed, it was beasters. And I was like looking back, I'm like, wow, that weed was trash. But it's, there was that. And then once I got like a little bit more into weed, being close to Chicago, 30 minutes away, there was great weed. You just had to go find it, you had to seek it out. And like, one of the other things that made it really easy was that there were a lot of people who did all that work for you. So you just had to meet people who already liked stuff that you were into anyway. There's a huge scene in Chicago, and it just grew and grew. And as I got a little bit older, it got kind of crazier and crazier, man. Like, especially when dabbing happened, the cannabis scene in Chicago blew up when dabbing was a thing.
Let's talk about that. We always like to talk about
what year and what year?
First dab, what year?
I don't even know. Oh my God. I took my first dab in like 2009, I think, at Bonnaroo. I went to Bonnaroo and I was all recreationally party favored out and wandering, trying to find my camp. And I met a guy who had driven all the way from California, and he had like a flower tube, and he was taking gross dabs, like gross looking dabs off of a tie curve.
I was gonna say, how dirty were your feet?
They were pretty dirty. I was wearing sandals all day. It was nighttime by then. It was pretty gnarly, and it was like my first really big music festival, like that I ever went to. So it was just kind of a crazy experience. And I ran into this guy, and I had a bunch of blunts rolled, and I was like smoking a blunt, and he was like, "That smells good." And we started like chit chat, and I was like, "Do you know where?" I forget what road I was on, but I was like trying to find my camp. I was like, "Do you know where this is?" He's like, "Yeah, you got to go like down that way past all the vendors." And he's like telling me, I was like, "Are you taking dabs?" And he was like, "Yeah." And I was like, "I've only ever seen that shit on the internet. Can I trade you like a blunt for one or something?" He's like, "No, just sit down. I'll give you one." So he was really cool. He was good vibes. And he basically got me super high and just like sent me off into the darkness, telling me like how to get back to my camp. And I found my way there. It was fine. But
was that a glowy for Kobe?
Oh yeah, off of a tie curve and everything. Like, it was definitely a glowy, red hot. The dab itself was probably an ugly khaki color, to be kind to it. Like it was gross. It was very early in the dabbing era, And, he didn't seem like the kind of guy who was a connoisseur to say. He seemed more like the festival circuit guy who really liked to get high.
Made it in his bathroom.
Maybe, I don't know, dude. Like, and that said, like, I remember this all leads to going back to Illinois after Bonnaroo, leaving Tennessee, coming home and telling my homie, I took a dab. We have to do this. We need to take dabs. It's amazing. And, fast forward to all the things that were horrible about BHO explosion in non-legal states and even in legal states. We were making BHO, doing it on apartment patios and just, doing anything. So
exactly what RJ and I did.
Anything we were doing was sketchy in terms of, the chemistry involved in making BHO. And there was a time where we were buying melty bubble hash for a while and we were doing this thing. And honestly, it was like rosin before rosin almost, I call it, where we read about this on Toke City. You take a stainless steel bowl and put it over a double boiler and you tap the hash against the stainless steel bowl over and over and over.
That's rosin version 1.
And it melts. It just leaves a little bit of that melt on the bowl, and then you pull it up and you scrape it all off. And we would dab that, dude. Like, we were doing whatever we could to make a dab to make it easy.
So wait, were you applying pressure, or you just like have the heat on it and then you're
Literally
slapping it and pulling it off?
And just kind of slap and pull it off. Because like, think of it, you're using like 3 and 4 star hash. You're just getting like that little bit of melt goo off
But
of
that's
it.
what rosin was.
Yeah, and that's
that's how you made rosin. Like that was the rosin tech pre-soil grown.
Well, and that's the thing. That's what people realize is like rosin's been a thing for a long time. You just don't know.
100%.
People didn't
100%.
know that was a thing people were doing. It's like, I don't know whose tech that was. I pulled that off. We pulled that off Toke City from goodness knows who.
That's also what I heard, like what melt was though. Like originally it was like, this shit's been around forever. It's just you don't get to see it because all the growers and the trimmers and the makers are taking this shit. So you don't get to see any of this.
Right. And that's the reality of it too, is like hash was always a thing that was for the industry. It was something that you got because you were involved in what was going on, whether that was the grow or the making of the hash or the trimming or whatever it was. Like that stuff was something that you couldn't sell it. One of my hash mentors, half of the Bizarre Brothers. I don't know if you guys know who those dudes are from Oakland.
Mm-hmm.
Space, very recently, rest in peace to Space. He passed away not too long ago. And Corpy, those are like my brothers for life. They taught me so much about making hash on a large scale. They were like, you didn't make hash to sell it. No one wanted to buy it. It was a thing that you made because you and the grower and a couple other guys wanted it. Anyone else who wanted hash was already in the know and getting hash however they needed it. You couldn't sell hash because people would smoke it and be way too high. Like it just wasn't a thing. There was no market. And now as time's gone on and everyone's smoking concentrates and whatever, it's just become this thing that's normalized. So it's crazy. It's crazy just in that sense too.
Did you see that? Did you see that when from when you took your first dab to when you were open blasting? As you were maturing, was that this is going to get huge, or was this for love of the plant?
I watched it explode, and I moved from Chicago when I was about 22, 23 years old to California. I moved out to Santa Rosa area. I tried to start an edible company with this guy. He basically hit me up and was like, let's go 50-50 on this. You can do production. You're already doing edible stuff. Cause I've been doing edible stuff since I was like 16, 17 years old. And he was like, let's get something going. And more or less, I came out, I was working and I started making the dude a lot of money. And when he saw the money that was coming in, he was like, oh, well, I don't want to split this with you. And it turned into a bad situation. But ultimately what was best for me, I left California briefly. I was back in Illinois. I was pretty much just like living at my parents' house with nothing going on. I didn't have like a job. I didn't have a hustle because like most of my hustle connections, I had was like, hey, I'm moving to California later. Like, hey buddy, take over my accounts, and then I can't like come back and be like, hey man, can I take that food off your table now? It was just like a whole weird situation. So I was really kind of like lost, for a minute. And through the wonder of the internet, I found, a cool community of people through, I feel like it was through 710 Society and like those early groups on Facebook and stuff helped me find a bunch of people and some web chat platforms to find people to meet. And a good friend of mine was like, hey, come live in Oakland, come crash our couch for a little while. And I was like, I don't have any money. I don't have anything. Like, I have nothing. They're like, just come. We're making hash. We have a bunch of food grade. Make the food grade. Split the edibles with us. Like, let's go. You know? And I was like, all right, cool. So I flew out to Oakland and I crashed on the couch at the bazaar with the Bazaar Bros with Corpy and Space and my friend Bridget at the time. She invited me in and she did a ton of stuff for me. She's awesome. We're not really on good terms anymore. We had a falling out, unfortunately, but she did so much for me, you know, like so many people I met through the internet really facilitated my ability to move west to do the cannabis thing. And it was awesome. It was really awesome to have that reality. So many people ask me when I go home, how do I go back? How do I get a job? And I'm like, dude, just try to meet someone. Don't just run out there looking for a job. You're going to get screwed. Chances are you're going to get screwed anyway. But like, you know, you have to have connections. You have to know people. It's all in the know for this thing. So watching it explode, moving west, seeing it blow up, seeing the change in pipes that happened. Like the pipe collecting scene was this small little thing that was like, oh, I know you and I know you and we know each other and there's 40 of us, you know? And like, even now when you go to DFO, it's like, okay, there's 250 of us. Cause it's like the serious people, you know, but like at the same time, it's still so much bigger than it was. There's kids buying pipes, posting pipes, spending tons of money on pipes. You know, you're getting hit up on Instagram because some kid saw your pipe and wants to sesh. And it changed so much about cannabis. It blew up the trap scene. It blew up BHO. Like BHO blew up the trap scene. Everyone and their grandma sold hash, and it just, you know, it. Do
you think the glass scene blew up because of legalization laws starting to happen, or do you think it blew up because of how popular BHO and flexing
the latter
on the gram happened?
The latter, 100%. Legality hasn't blown up pipe culture. Pipe culture was a thing before weed was legal. You know what I mean? It was a thing that we cared about as glassheads long before that, and that we felt like it was worth investing time, money, and risk into to have for ourselves. What happened is legalization made it acceptable. So it was already blown up before weed was legal, even before weed was legal in California under the 215 laws. Because, like, don't get it twisted, weed was legal. It wasn't legal, you know, like it was very different. It was the Wild West, and we were all cowboys doing whatever we want. And for some people, the 215 laws meant, oh, it's cool, I can have 2 ounces of weed at my house, and I can smoke weed in my car on break at work or whatever. And like that was the extent of it. But for some of us, we were like, weed's legal. I'm growing 100 plants, you know, like I'm making hash. I'm doing this. Like we're getting it. And it was all, none of it was legal, but none of it was illegal because no one was bothering us about it. And when you had means to create like money from this thing you loved, you had to spend it on like, you know, like it comes back to that whole thing. It's like, this isn't really legal what we're doing. Like, if I have all this money sitting here and something happens, I shouldn't have a bunch of cash sitting around. I can't put it in the bank. I can't do this.
Yeah, you couldn't put it in the bank. That's the biggest thing too, though. Like, right, you couldn't actually put it in the bank in a meaningful way. You couldn't buy a house with it. So, like, what else was there to do other than, you know, try
invest
to
it.
either?
Well, and that's the thing. It's like
legitimize that money through investments. Like
and if pipe kids were smart, they wouldn't buy pipes. You know what I mean? Like, 'cause in reality, if your pipe is worth more money later, you're really lucky. And like for me, so many of my pipes that I have in my collection are old. They have push bowls. For me, their value is significantly more than what I could ever get in the market for. You know, and like for me, that's what collecting pipes was always about. And smoking weed was. They just went hand in hand. You know, you had a cool pipe because you wanted to smoke good weed out of it. And then you made cool friends because you had a cool pipe and you smoked good weed out of it. And like you found people that got together. A pipe is like you know, like it goes back to that. What is a pipe? You know, like it's this thing that brings people together. It's always a ceremonial thing that's passed around and shared. And even now with dabbing, where you don't really like pass a pipe around the way that you used to when we were kids, you still like all pick it up and look at it and take your turn smoking out of it and experiencing it. And it's this thing, this vessel that brings people together, you know? And
I
that's
just had a thought. I had a thought just the way that you were talking about it, because it's like the ticket to the culture, right?
it almost is, but at the
So,
same time, that sucks because
so I was gonna say, do you think that there's a relationship like that to NFTs, and like how some people are pushing an NFT of the pipe and then it becomes an exclusive community?
I don't want to get into the NFT thing. I think it's very silly. I have a fine art degree, so like for me, art has to hold value. And the hard thing about NFTs is they only hold value because everyone says they hold value. And for me, that's just a volatile market that's going to crash. And I could be totally wrong. You know, I could be totally wrong. There's a lot of technology behind it that like has value, and there is a lot of value to it, right? But
No,
the
I
art,
was just
the
like
art is
drawing the
terrible.
similarity to like the ticket, right? How they say it's the ticket to the community. It's all about the community, and it's like,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I was
I mean,
gonna say it
I
sucks
don't
that having a
disagree.
crazy tube would be the ticket.
I don't.
It's clout. You,
It's
you
a
spend
clout.
50
I
racks on a
don't like
tube.
to subscribe to that policy either because I remember. I think I told you guys the other day. I remember going into a shop. I was probably not even old enough to be in the bong store, you know. And I saw a banjo motorcycle lady, and the guy told me it was $1,200. And I was like, "Do people even buy those?" And he said, "I'll never forget." He goes, "This ain't a museum, kid." And then he asked me if I was even old enough to be in there, and I was like really worried, so I dipped. You know, like I was out. But it was a moment where, as soon as I saw it, I was like, I can't ever have that. You know, there were Yush pipes on the shelf. They were $700 or $600. I could never buy those in my head. I was a kid, you know, and looking back on it, like the Yush pipe that was $700, if I could have bought it, is like, oh my God, what a fucking deal, right? And now it was one of those things where I immediately went to the internet to find pipes. I was like, internet pipes. I got to find more pipes. And I found the community, the pipe community, through Toke City and all these other things. And it was really cool. It was really cool to see that, like, wow, there's a whole bunch of people that really are into these things. Wow, these people really do spend $1,200 on bongs. Like, that's real. And, you know, I remember my dream one day being to own a Yushin pipe. And I own a dozen or something now. Like, it's crazy. So, you know, just believe in your reality, do what you want and live your life and you'll get there. But like the things you don't expect from a thing like glass pipes can come from it. Some of my best friends in the entire world I know through pipes. Some of the best deals I've ever made for money or for exchanges have been via pipes. You know, like I have so many pipes that I've gotten in great trades, in good deals, and then ultimately I come out with a friend. Like, it's cool, man.
I was gonna say it's not truly about the pipe; it's about the like
It's
friendship
the
and
connection.
community. Yeah,
It's this
the
vessel.
connection.
Again, like I said, it's a vessel that brings us all together. Like, it doesn't matter if it's that bowl from the gas station that you smoked out of when you were 14 or 15 that your buddy had. You guys sat in a circle, and that vessel brought you together to sit in that cold ass garage and smoke weed together, play Halo or whatever it was. And like, it does the same thing now. It's just we're adults, dude. It's a whole different thing. Like, and I don't like the idea of it being a ticket to the community. I like the idea of like gates open, come on in. You know, like I'm a gates open kind of guy. I'm not a gatekeeper. I want to like let everybody in, and it's hard, you know, especially when pipe making and glass and the dab scene blew up. It was scary because you did have a pipe that was expensive, and some kid who didn't know anything about it was like trying to look at it, and it's intense, you know. But you just have to. I think that like for me, I was always like, oh, I'll hold it. You can hit the pipe. I'll hold it for you, or like let me hold it while you check it out, or if you want to take some pictures, that's cool. Tag me, or but like to tell somebody that this is your ticket and you have to have this to be cool. I don't like that policy because I feel like it's going to deter people from that scene, and it's going to, you know, like I don't care if you have a crummy Chinese pipe. I'll try to convince you to buy one that's made by an American artist to support, or, you know, a independent artist in general. I know you guys are all Canadian. I don't want to fucking.
hey, there's solid Japanese, there's crazy Japanese artists.
Well, and that's the thing. Most people collect American made glass, and that's like a huge thing in the scene. But like, it's more about an independent artist for me. I don't care if you blow glass and you live in China and you're getting away with it, and the government hasn't chopped your fingers off for it. fucking, and you're an independent artist making money, go for it, dude. Like, I'll buy your pipes if they're cool. The whole thing is support someone, and for me, the experience is just infinitely better out of a nicer pipe. When someone gives me a bong that is like some cheap DH bong and I hit it, I'm like, this is clogged. And they're like, I just cleaned it. And you're like, yeah, well, it's like it's clogged. You know,
that's the same. I talk about like quality like that. Compare a car, man. You know, like a piece of shit that costs you like $500. It rolls. It'll get you point A to point B. You might even be able to take it onto the highway. But compare that to like a brand new luxury car. There's a reason.
It doesn't even have to be luxury. Just a brand new car.
Just a brand new car.
That's it. Like you know.
Not even new.
Like
a well-maintained, actually,
Chinese,
just actually an amazing old luxury car because the care's gone into it.
Like a lot of Chinese glass is actually pretty good. You know what I mean? There's a lot of shit out there, but like, think about where we were 5 years ago talking about Chinese glass now versus import bangers.
Oh, it's crazy.
Everyone's got import bangers because the quality is there. You know what I mean?
And dude, my family still lives in Illinois. I go home and visit. Every time I go home and visit, my brother has broken the bong that I bought last time. And I go to the store and I buy another $60 bong. And it's like, I could never do that. You couldn't buy a $60 bong when I was a kid. Even a little bong was $60 and it sucked. You didn't buy it because
it was acrylic.
It was a piece of shit. And now you go to the store in Illinois and you buy a 14-inch tall, 7.5 mil thick ass fucking glass tube. And honestly, the only thing that sucks about it is the downstem. If you put a new downstem in it, it hits fine because it's just a fucking tube. You know, the reality is you can buy a nice bong from China, but like the reality of that is that bongs that are made by independent artists have gotten much nicer since then. You know, like
it's the little things, like the way you're saying, like the downstem, the functionality, the little things.
Hidden features though too
make the larger gap
in the color.
But I mean, the quality of a weld to a weld.
Well, and yeah, I can show you welds on old American made pipes that look like trash. And I can show you welds on brand new Chinese pipes that look perfect.
Let's go. Let's dive into this glass. Like, I feel like this is the right time.
Let me hit this bong. I'm going to mute myself because I might cough a little bit.
No worries.
Ever since I got the COVID a little while ago.
So I want to shout out Mr. Eric Crunk, AK. It's AK's birthday this weekend. So I got all my crunks out. I guess I can maybe show off my other ones too.
RJ, while Pat's ripping his bong, feel free to show the stand. Oh, that's a really nice piece too. It's old Toro. Wow.
That's
incredible.
That tall boy.
Sherlock.
I love those.
Yeah, that Sherlock is pretty sick. It's got like embedded opals. And yeah, so this slide right here, I presume to be around from 2005. So that's the oldest piece of AK that I own. All were acquired between 2009 and 2011. So it's pretty much been in my collection for 10 years. Just, you know, the heat that you keep around. Super blessed to be able to acquire this when I did. And yeah, just big shout out to AK on his birthday. Happy birthday to the man who created all this incredible art. Super blessed to own it. Super blessed to smoke out of it. And yeah, the absolute fire.
A definite happy birthday to Eric for sure.
Yeah. So I'll bring some more of that out to show. The lighting wasn't the best there, but
I love all that chaos work. For me, I love the pipe making roots a lot, and I think that Eric's work is a great representation of like chaos work and like the roots of pipe making and like what it is. For me, pipe making is a lot about the shaping and the line work, and I think that's why I collect a lot of Yush work. I think for me, Yush's work is all about the evolution of the disc. You know, like it's about taking that disc shape and evolving it over time. And I think that's one of the really cool things about his work is you see the progression work through using this shape continuously. And then, you know, his older pieces are obviously all push bubblers, which I love. And the disc originates, you know, in the mouthpiece mostly. And
His use of the discs for flips and for just art is insane. Like, yeah, he's taken that
The use of a disc
concept
for
of
function.
the disc. Well, you know, it's like off his
actually,
mouthpiece.
At first, it was the use of a disc for a flip, for a presentation surface for art, to create this thing that was about, I'm going to make a piece of art here. And that's like what's really cool about the disc, in that, you know, even just the belt buckles are just a disc, you know. And this one's all dirty because it was like my daily driver for a while, and it would get smoked out of once in a while, and I never cleaned it. But it's just you know, it's a great huge open surface. The same thing with like a disc flip. You can draw a picture on there, you can do all this cool line work on it, and it like gives you a flat surface to do it. But I think that what Yush's work has found is that the disc acts as a functionality thing eventually, and it became, you know, like, so the disc goes to there, he has the bub. The disc here functions as this great platform for this cool little wigwag, but it also functions as, if you fucking hit this thing way too hard and you let go of this snorkel carb and water shoots all the way up, it's probably going to go all the way across the disc instead of straight into your mouth. And like, I loved that factor. And then he takes it and evolves on it again with the double bub, because Yush's double bubs are super unique. And I love that they're not the typical.
Yo, that is unreal.
I actually
great.
have two of these. There's two bubs like this. They're like kind of sisters, if you will. And this is just one of them. If you want me to go grab the other one, I will in a second. But I can show you both of them. But it's just right in the house. But this is really cool because you see his progression here. You have his double bub is a natural perk. So instead of having a down stem and then a second chamber with another down stem, he just has this cool natural perk, and it's really kind of hidden. You can see it there where it connects, but then it comes up into the disc and these hollow horns. So this acts as function, you know, like it bubbles up in here and then it perks again through this disc.
That's killer.
And then that disc attaches to the mouthpiece here and comes up this natural splash guard too. So you can put so much water in these and never hit your mouth. It's really cool.
And that thing probably a rumbler, like shaking the table.
Dude, I feel like you have to put like a half a gallon of water in it. It's huge. The other one I think is even bigger too. Like it has a bigger base.
If you were able to put like a banger in it and like a terp slurper and it were to rumble, it would like be shaking the thing sideways.
I really wish that I could. It's such a shame that there's not a cool way to put a dab device onto a push bowl and make it work, because I have almost all my cool pipes have push bowls, you know, like and then I guess it leads back to like, I think this is the design that like Yusha's really most known for, the upline thing.
So high.
And again, if you look, dude,
it's so funny. When I first saw those, I was like, people buy those?
Well, and it's crazy. Everyone's like, how do you hold that? And I'm like, oh, just like this. You know, it fits like right in your hand. It's so ergonomic, dude. Like everything is, once you put it in your hand, you're like, oh, it just fits. Like it's like, that's what's really crazy about it too, is they look so daunting. But then when you hold it, it feels so good in your hands. And if you really look, this is just a progression of what he's doing here. You know, like the upline is just this dual perk. It's just like taking this disc here and what he's doing with that natural perk and just evolving on it, you know? And I think where Yush really struggled for a hot minute was everyone's dabbing now. What the fuck do I do?
Yeah.
And I think that, you know, then he was like, well, it's back to the disc. And he just, you know, made the redisculator, which is all about form and function. Which
unreal.
And like, I can't really afford more Yush work now. His work is too expensive now. So it's like, for me, you can see in his work now, the remibulators, all the circ cyclers, it's again just that disc. He's taking that disc and like applying different things. And now I think it's kind of an orb thing that he's working with, which is cool. He like started this whole orb thing. And he's just, you know, progressing work. And for me,
the ball within a ball?
The
3D
ball,
disc.
the remibulator started this ball within a ball, and now he has like these weird
The redismibulators.
Yeah, they're wild, dude.
So hype.
So it's cool to see an artist push different stuff in that same box. You know, he's like taking his box and he's like, okay, well, I got this in the box. And he's like, okay, well, I can make it into this, or I can make it into this. Now I'm gonna make it into this. And you just see him evolve. Like I see him evolve through his work. And you see that with some other pipe makers. I think you see it with like a lot of those guys who have a lot of clout. I think you see it with Eric. I think you see it with Quave. You know, you see it with those big name glass blowers who really are like, you know, the upper echelon of collecting for like real connoisseurs. And I think that's what's important as an artist. Like I said before, I have a degree in fine art. So for me, I'm always trying to see, I don't really make a lot of art anymore because I haven't had a lot of time. But you know, for me, making art was always about trying to like push an idea further, take the idea, progress on it. And like, you can only be
What kind of art did you do?
Huh?
What kind of art did you do?
I did a lot of painting and sculpture stuff all through high school and college. I really like to paint in oil. A lot of my sculpture stuff is like conceptual stuff. A lot of it's about like space and light and like traditional themes of art, like light and shadow, but like made into very like contemporary things to represent light and shadow and just like it's weird. A lot of it's weird.
Did you watch Blown on Netflix?
Yeah, we watched Blown. My wife and I watched it. We had a good time. It was fun.
I feel like that's up your alley because that's like where it really is like.
I love
art form rather than like the smoking.
Well, Shelbo was on season 2.
He was on season 2, and they had another glass guy that I feel like I had heard of before on the newest season. Some younger kid who he was wearing like some cool pendants and stuff. He had like he was obviously into glass outside of the hot shop, glass. And for me, like art is just like it's a subjective thing. My house is full of paintings. It's full of posters. It's full of weird oddities and all sorts of goofy stuff. I have skulls and I have dog testicles in a jar.
Wait, I saw that. Didn't you get a human skull for Christmas or something?
I do have a human skull that I got for Christmas.
The only places I've seen those, as soon as I saw that, I was like, so like when I was in like medical school, actually getting like sawed off ones and like pulling out the brain and stuff and
So I'm just into oddities. I have a bunch of I have like a mummified bat. I have a bunch of bones and animal skulls and just weird stuff. A bunch of preserved butterflies and like.
I have a whole bunch of butterflies. I'm with you there.
And I wanted a human skull because I'm a weirdo. And I was looking up how to purchase one, which you can, but they're typically very expensive to buy. And I posted on Facebook when I was still using Facebook as a joke one year around Christmas time. All I want for Christmas is a human skull. And this guy, Randy, who actually blows glass and is really cool. He was like this kid from Illinois who was blowing glass in his garage, and he would do like pendants, stash and dashes. And I'd like go find his pendants and then smoke weed with him once in a while. He was a cool kid. He lived a couple hours from me, so I didn't do it all the time, but he was cool. He hit me up and he goes, yo, my grandma passed away. She owned this artist retreat. She left me all these storage units full of like art supplies and art stuff, all these still life, like model stuff, like stuff for life drawing classes. And he's like, dude, I have like 4 skulls, a full skeleton, a bunch of stuff. And he's like, I'll just send you one of the skulls. I have one that's pretty beat up. If you don't mind, it's yours. And I was like, done, send it to me. So he sent it over and I've had it ever since. It sits on my mantle. It's got like a crown of dried flowers and herbs, and there's like a butterfly thing, like a preserved butterfly thing going on, and it's open cap skull. It sits at the place of reverence. I try to give it a lot of honor, I guess. It was a person. There's no weird bad vibes. There's no like a ghost associated with it or anything. And if there is, I've never noticed her. It's a woman's skull.
I think that's what I was gonna say. The important thing is like, you don't want it to like pretend to wear it as a hat, which would be pretty fucked up.
Yeah, that's a little weird.
But it's like it's like for the literally the artistic value and the value that it brings as like an oddity.
The oddity of it, and like just the, I don't know, to remind something about, like, you know, for me, death is like one of those things where it's, I don't really know a lot about it, but it's probably just a new beginning, you know, like every time I think something's ending, it's just something new starting. So
It's one of the few sure things you have in life.
yeah, you know, death, what do they say? Death and taxes, or jail if you don't pay those, you know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Absolutely.
it's whatever. Yeah, I don't know. I just have a lot of weird stuff. Me and my wife collect a lot of stuff. I have a ton of paintings. I collect a lot of paintings from my friend Joe Fuentes. Shout out to him. I went to college with him. He's really cool. You can find him on Instagram. I think it's just like Joseph Fuentes Art or something. But check him out. He makes really cool paintings. I have a bunch of his work. I collect some more hype stuff. I have a lot of like my hype art is kind of like gifted to me. I have like a Gats print that was a gift. I have a big Mars One print that was a gift. But like a lot of what I collect is just stuff that I like. You know, I have a weird painting of Beavis and Butthead. That's like where their faces are exploding. It's really awesome. It's a weird ass painting. It's great.
So like Grondek?
No, it's by
Grondek?
Joe. It's by that
Oh,
same
it's by
guy.
Joe? Oh, okay.
Joe Fuentes. Yeah, he's really cool. I have a lot of pipe. I have a bunch of stained glass art. Actually, I have a big stained glass Steely right here that I took down because it's windy.
Oh wow,
That's
really cool.
Yeah, man. Yeah, there. That's my guy. He's awesome. I actually own that painting. It's in the other room in my house. It's
that
huge.
type.
It's super fire.
That's
His
super
work's
cool.
really cool. Yeah, that one too. That's the Beavis and Butthead.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's dope.
Yeah. So he's just a good friend, and I love his artwork. He was like one of those dudes who I went to college with, who I was always like, his work has a lot of potential. I love that piece. That last piece is like one of my favorites. Yeah, so cool. That one got swooped out from under me. His buddy bought it. I wanted it really bad.
That's awesome.
Yeah, man, he's really great. He was in Vegas for a while. I think he moved back towards the Midwest or something now, but he's a good friend.
Very cool.
Yeah, dude, just art in general, it like brings me life, you know? I've always loved it.
Very cool.
Well,
Yeah.
did you find that same satisfaction in your early days of hash making? Like, I want to kind of go back to when you started your solventless extraction journey and what that looked like. What was your first?
Let's talk about that. Absolutely. For me, making hash is like it's a thing. It's an expression of love, you know, and something that you do because you love it, not because it's just like a thing to do, you know. And I learned a lot about making hash when I first moved to Santa Rosa. I was doing edible stuff, processing a lot of food grade for Matt Rise, and I kind of watched a lot of the hash he was making and really like picked his brain when I could a little bit about hash. He was really nice. He was always really kind to me. You know, he invited me over. We ate dinner and we made fruit leathers when he first started doing that thing, and we were like, we're doing that kind of stuff.
Ask.
Yeah, he was doing that
juice
thing.
roll-ups.
Yeah, he was doing that. That was like right around that time, like the juice roll-up thing. I remember going over there, and he was doing it with like he was just starting to put the edible flowers in and stuff. And I loved what he was doing. So we were talking edibles and hash, and just really liked what was going on. So I really like bought hash from Matt and really like kind of dove more into the solventless thing because I've been smoking a lot of BHO. And then when I left California because my situation there hadn't worked out and came back to Oakland, I was living with Corpy and Space, the Bizarre Brothers, who are, again, you know, rest in peace to Space. And Corpy is like, you know, my brother from another mother. I love him to death. He's like one of my favorite people in the world. And they taught me a lot about making hash. You know, a lot of things that I learned from them were about making hash on a large scale and like how different that is than like making hash for your head. Because making hash for your head, even what Matt was doing was
Let's talk about that. Why is that different?
Oh, dude, it's just it's a crazy thing in that when you go from process, like I remember washing hash from my head, like washing like, an ounce or two of flowers in like the sink in a bucket with the sink full of ice and the bucket full of ice and water. And I'm just, like doing all these crazy things, fucking spoon. And when I went to the bazaar, the whole thing was, okay, we have this, I forget, it was like 160 gallon conical vessel that gets filled with ice and water. And then we have 4 sets of cans with bags in them, and everything drops out of the bottom underneath it. It all gets mixed on top. And it's just like this whole other thing, dude. Hash becomes this thing that it's like physically exhausting. And like when you're making hash that way, you're dropping mostly ice and water, but you're getting a bunch of weed in the 220 bags. So you're pulling heavy ass 220 bags. Me being a guy who was there to make edibles, I was like, well, we're running those 25 bags, dog, because I need that hash. And that sucks. Pulling a 25 bag when you're making a ton of hash is a whole different thing than pulling a 25 bag when you're making very little hash. And it sucks.
Possible at some runs.
Oh yeah, dude. I mean, again, this goes back to the roots of hash making. Part of the reason dudes didn't make hash back in the day is because they would literally rent cherry pickers to just string their bags up and hang them from to let them drip, because there was just like they didn't even understand like the movement of the bag to get everything through. Like it's evolved so much from where it was. Even when Corpy and Space started making hash, Space's techniques were a great. Corpy and Space's techniques were so cool because they were so much of the old school. There was so much of the old school hash making there. Everything, the old school dry. We didn't have a freeze dryer when I first lived there. We were making a lot of hash from cured trim, but like very good cured trim. Like they had great connections. They'd been making hash forever. So it was just a different experience. I was learning a lot about like classic hash making technique and like how to do that. And it's a lot of the kids who make hash now, I don't think know how to do that. A lot of them, like they come in washing fresh frozen, they buy a freeze dryer. They don't know anything about, a perforated pan with parchment in a room with a dehydrator and an exhaust and all this stuff. Like making hash back in the day, like people think that no one did it to scale, but people did. Like Bubble Man did it. Corpy in Space did it. Like there are a lot of people doing it before the freeze dryer was a thing, before the fresh frozen was a thing. And to be able to meld those two things, to learn the old techniques, it's kind of like when I was a kid, I always wanted to play guitar because I wanted to shred an electric guitar, right? And as an adult, I know that I'm not even meant to play a guitar because I got stupid fingers. But like as a kid, all I wanted was to play electric guitar, right? And my mom was like, well, you can get an acoustic guitar. And I was like, well, that deal's fucked. I'm out. I just didn't want anything to do with it. And it's like, learning to play the acoustic guitar has all the roots and everything you need to know for maybe why you're doing what you're doing. And like, that's super crucial and important to me. So yeah, my love of making hash it exists, I would love to be making some hash from some great weed that a friend grew right now. I have a lab in a box in the garage, I can make hash if I wanted to. I have some washing machines and some 2 ACs and a tent and all the stuff I need. I might have to go buy a couple buckets, but I just it's different now. I worked for Blue River for like we talked about like about 6 years, and recently Blue River has become this big multi-state operator, which is awesome, and I'm really stoked to be a part of that happening. It was really cool, and I had agreed to take over the operations of the lab here in Los Angeles, and the guy who there's a brand partner here in LA who is running that lab, who owns that lab, and he and I just don't really see eye to eye or get along. And, I don't think he really wanted me there, and I don't think I really wanted to be there. So we kind of had a moment where, there's been some separation and I'm walking away, but it's not a separation from Blue River per se. It's just a separation from being a day-to-day hash maker here at this lab in LA. I'm on great terms with Tony from Blue River. He's been nothing but good to me. We've been friends for, 6 years or so now. And he's a great dude. Him and his wife just had a baby. So big congrats to him. and he's adorable, and they're doing really good. And I'm still involved in Blue River with like my edible consult thing that I had mentioned. We're gonna get some edibles going for them here in the very near future, and that's a thing. So there's no animosity there or anything. It's been a really good experience for me to walk away. It's kind of a weird time with my kid coming. I feel like it's maybe a crazy thing to do, but at the same time, it's a good thing in my life. It's just a change I need.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like you found yourself on the forefront. I feel like with Matt Rise when you did, and then with Tony for as long as you were. It's like you've been on the tip of the spear, pushing this. So like
yeah, I'm
I
kind
don't
of a
think
behind the scenes guy too. Like I don't know. I don't want all the clout or anything really. I just kind of want to do what I do and do it. And like I think that's like really apparent to me now that I've always been kind of a man behind the scenes. Me and Tony worked a lot. When I started working for Blue River, I just did dishes. It was a time in my life that I really needed like structure. I just needed like a job where I needed some structure in my life because my life was just like crazy. And I went to him and I was like, hey man, I just need some work. And he was like, well, the deal is you do dishes. Like that's how everyone starts out around here. And like Tony's old school like that. And it's kind of cool. I'm pretty heavily tattooed. I'm into the tattoo thing. I wanted to do that for a while. So like that kind of apprenticeship vibe, but I still got paid was a good idea for me. Like I like that. I had to kind of earn my keep. And they were making flower rosin. A lot of it was going into like capsules and tinctures and stuff. So when the hash maker there left, he was like, do you want to make hash? And I was like, yeah, but we got to stop this flower rosin horseshit. I can't do this. This is not my vibe. Not that it's bad for the tinctures or whatever, but like, even so, if we can make halfway decent dry sift rosin, the potency is higher. It's better for the product. It's less of it in. It just makes more sense, So we started doing a lot of work together to try to develop the dry sift thing, and then we were doing dry sift rosin. We did some really cool stuff. We did some really experimental stuff. Tony designed a machine, and we kind of troubleshot it together to get where we wanted for dry sifting. And we did some cool shit with it. We did a fresh frozen papaya sift collab with Cali Kosher, which, the yield was awful, but the hash was incredibly good. It was so fire, dude. And it was just something wild, things that no one had ever done before. We were just trying to experiment and have fun. And like, for me, making hash is like all about that. It's like learning about something new every day. And, since then we've grown. We went to Florida. We did the dry sift thing there. They're now making live rosin in Florida. He moved up. Tony has his own store up in Massachusetts and a whole full lab there. He has a hash maker, Will, who he hired. I think it's Goodwill Hunting 710 or something on Instagram.
I've heard of him.
He's a great hash maker, super awesome dude. Honestly, just was probably making hash a lot more on a small scale than me and having fun in his own thing. And he's just on it, dude. He's very numbers oriented and he's a great hash maker. So he's kind of overtaken that role of being the hash maker over there and being like that lead extractor guy for Blue River. Well, I'm going to do the consult for edible thing and kind of just step away and do, my thing that's going to make me happy. Not that making hash doesn't make me happy. It just doesn't in the capacity of like having to do it as my full-time job. It's like, being in a lab every day, making hash with no windows and, just making the same strain every day over and over and over again just because you have to. And it's not for me. Like
do you compare that to the how people call it, the art of hash making, or like being
that's lab life, bro. That's different. That's lab life.
Well, and
like
that's the thing.
No, because he's saying not just the fact that he's making hash. It's the fact that it's like, yeah, you're in the corporate life, and I think of like the same thing as comparing
it's also
art,
like it's
art
compliance.
in the art.
It's compliance and regulatory.
Well, let him answer.
Okay. Well,
I think for me, it's just that anything that you truly love, if you have to do it every single day, all day for money, it starts to suck. Even the 215 thing when cannabis was different, like. It was a hustle and like, yeah, was it better than being in a lab with no windows every single day? Hell yeah. But at the same time, was it incredibly stressful sometimes? And like, did it suck making this thing that you loved your whole life? Sometimes I feel like I put myself in a box, like all I have is weed. And it's like, I don't. When I'm feeling that way, I have to remember that that's not what's going on. I have a lot more things going on in my life. And for some of it's most of it's thanks to weed. You know, like I feel like I have so much experience in what it takes to go out and be part of an event as a team. I feel like I have event coordination skills. I have creative direction skills, you know, like working for Blue River with Tony. A lot of it is Tony's vision, you know, and that's not a bad thing. I love Tony's vision. It's awesome. Is it the same as my vision? Probably not. Like, but I've learned to work within what his vision is, and I've become good at that. And, you know, I know that if I know working with Tony, if I have an idea that he's not going to like, I don't even say it to him because it's just an idea that he's not going to like. And I know if I have an idea that he's going to like, I'll say it to him and he'll tell me that he won't like it. And then 2 weeks later, he's like, that's a great idea. Because that's how he is. He always like, he wants to think about it for a hot minute first. But yeah, it depends. It all depends, you know, like depends on who you work with. If I had to work and make hash with Tony every day, I probably would. But he's out on the East Coast now, and that's not my vibe. I'm not going out there. I don't want to live on the East Coast. And he's got a great hash maker, Will, out there. You know, I can't like it's kind of like when I left Chicago and then I came back. It's like I can't be like, hey man,
No, totally.
Can I take this food out your mouth?
Yeah,
I'm not that guy. So it's good. You know, everything is good. I feel really good about my future and what's happening, but hash making as a 9 to 5 for me is not my vibe. Hash making is a thing that I do because I love it, and I won't ever stop. Like, I told you I have that lab in the garage. It's not because I'm going to get rid of it. It's because sooner or later I'm going to have to wash some hash. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's gonna be
I was going to say, it's all about love.
It's all about love, dude. Like, and that's the thing. Like, you have to remember too, like the 215 thing being crazy stressful, you did it because you loved it. And like, even now I did all the corporate cannabis thing because I love cannabis. But what I found is that corporate cannabis is not the same cannabis that I love. The stress used to be worth it for me. The stress isn't worth it for me anymore. You know, like the stress that comes along with corporate cannabis is just different. It's not for me anymore. It's not for what I love. It's me trying to hold on to what I love for someone else. And that's not necessarily like in every situation. I don't feel like it's like that with Tony and Blue River because we both love what we're doing, you know. And when I work with Tony, there's camaraderie. We feel great. It's a good vibe. We work well together. We know how one another's brains work, and we can really do stuff together. But when it becomes a numbers game every day and it's just about making hash, and I'm not there having that day-to-day experience with Tony because he's so busy running 6 states. You know, I can't blame him. It's not his fault. The company's grown, and it's what I worked for it too. We all worked for it, you know. It just changes. It's what I want has changed, you know. Like I have this kid coming. I want to be with my kid. I told my wife a couple of weeks ago, like my dream is to be a stay-at-home dad, and like not that I don't want to do anything. I want to be with my son. You know, I want to be with my family. I want to take care of them. That's what's the most important to me. So ultimately, it's all about love. And
absolutely.
Whether it's making hash or the pipes or what you're doing for money or whatever, if you don't have some love in it, it's gonna suck.
100%. So talk a little bit about what the future holds with your consulting group. You look focused on edibles. Like,
yeah,
you've got a lot of experience in edibles.
There's a lot to talk about edibles. Can you talk about the evolution of edibles, where they've come from, where they are?
It's absolutely massive and crazy. What edibles are now from what edibles were when I started. Because what they were when I started was I have 5 jars of stems. What the fuck do I do with these? Like, and now it's, you know, you could go to Alabama and buy a Delta 9 edible or a Delta, Delta 8? I don't even know how it works over there.
Even like Delta 10 now, right? Like
yeah,
Delta
there's
8,
all
Delta
these
10,
Deltas,
like
these weird semi-legal
HHC,
brownies.
like hexahydrogenated, tetrahydrogenated.
I don't know. It sounds sketchy. I'm not into it, dog.
Crazy shit. Chemistry is wild.
Extractor. The chemistry is wild. I'm sure that their chemists and their equipment is probably pretty sound. Whatever you're ingesting is probably more or less safe considering what food grade standards are, you know, but that's to be said about, you know, whatever you're eating too. So, It's just weird. It's crazy, dude. You go to the store and they're like, you go to the weed store now and they're like, oh, you want this michelada mix, this medicated michelada mix? It like already comes in a styrofoam cup with like fucking shit and like a packet of Tapatio and stuff. You're like, what the fuck is going on, dude? It's wild. Like there's beverages made by Pabst Blue Ribbon in there at the cookie store. Gummies are obviously always the big seller, you know, like I feel like they make up a huge percentage of the edible market, and they're what most people want. I think that that's another thing too. Like with my edible consult company, I realized that I have a lot of skills there that I could apply to other industries. I was considering reaching out to some like supplement companies and health food industry companies for like, you know, hey, you guys don't do a gummy vitamin with this thing in it. Let's talk, you know, and just kind of like try to see what my horizons are in terms of that, because I think I have a lot of industry or experience from this industry that could apply to other ones, and a lot of creative stuff from this industry that could apply to other ones in a way that I don't even know if they think is applicable yet. And then obviously there's connections with hemp, like because of being in the cannabis industry, I know like legal hemp farmers, so that could be brought into like, you know, some vitamin people and stuff. I feel like there's a lot of connections there. So I might try to explore those routes. Obviously try to get some more companies who might be interested in some edible consulting or starting up an edible brand from their existing brand. There's so many brands out there that I feel like have a great market for a handful of things, but then don't have edibles, or if they do have edibles, they're really just kind of subpar. And the edible brands that are like succeeding are ones that are doing it on their own. And for me, it's not that I'm like not stoked for the edible brands that have come into the market and are doing good on their own, but like the way I see cannabis going is that unfortunately, because those guys have such a small little corner of the market, they're either never going to grow at all or slowly be phased out eventually. And my theory is that
edibles in general, or
no, just like the brands that are like, all I do is edibles. I'm a gummy brand. There's a few of them in California that are like, I make gummies and they're killing it and they're doing great. But like at the same time, like Kiva makes gummies and like all these other brands are coming out with these gummies and all these other things. Like, yeah, you have that little corner of the market right now, but are you going to have it forever? And I hope they do. I really hope they do. I really hope that everyone who's coming to cannabis, especially in the California market, the legacy people succeed, but it's scary, bro. It's a scary industry. It's changed a lot of things. And
how do people set themselves apart other than a different gelatin to pectin ratio? Like what are some things that you're seeing that
unique flavors?
And I was going to say, what kind of cannabis is ideal?
I mean, that for me, solventless extracts obviously is like the ideal.
And is that the future?
No, unfortunately not. It's a connoisseur market thing that will exist. Again, probably it'll be held in a small corner of the market. But you see these brands, dude, like even, for example, Punch. Punch is an edible company here in California, and they're making rosin now, and they're making solventless edibles. And they're just going to, you know, eventually those bigger brands who have a bigger corner on the market, they're just going to push everybody small out. And it sucks to say it, and I hope it doesn't happen. I really do, like I said. But I don't really see it going another way, unfortunately. And that's what sucks. That's one of the huge reasons that I want to step away from working 9 to 5 in cannabis, because I feel like everyone is going to be pushed out eventually by the big boxes or bought out. I mean, you're going to get lucky. You're either going to get pushed out or you're going to get bought out. And
I have a different opinion.
You do? I'd love to hear what you think.
Because we see this in a lot of industries, right? And like, say, more mature industries. Like, look at pharmacies.
Right.
And look at even dental offices. Look at like a bunch of those brands, right? So there's huge players in the market, but there's always room for like artistic and unique and quality products and service to have that niche market. So while I think you're right, the bell curve is going to change, and the middle of that bell curve is going to be all corporate. There's going to be the ends where you have the people like yourself that will literally be able to make a fantastic living and have an incredible business. Now, we may not be able to take over the corporate side, but also I think you're of the same mentality as Jameson and RJ and myself, that it's like, fuck that, I don't ever want to be like that.
Well,
anyway.
yeah, no, I definitely have that mentality. There's a very predatory business aspect of of what's going on in corporate cannabis, and that's just not for me, dude. I don't want to be part of it. And I don't think I have that experience with Blue River. I think that Tony's doing his thing, and he's in with his partners who are helping him expand his brand, and he's got a good corner. You know, he's got a good niche to fulfill. The thing that scares me about your optimism in the market is that I don't disagree with what you're saying in a lot of other industries, but the hard thing for me is that I think there'll always be room for a boutique grower or hash maker or product provider, if you will. But the boutique dispensary that's this small one-off spot is not going to exist. And the reality is, like,
I hope the farm to table could happen.
I would love for something like that, a farm to table kind of thing where and a lot of people say, hey, farm to table in cannabis is just called vertical integration, you know, because it's like, hey, we grew all this weed and now we're putting it right in our jars and it's going straight to you. And it's like, a lot of people bitch about that and they say it's not good, but at the same time, vertical integration is something that gives a brand the ability to control everything from start to finish, so their quality is always on point. There's good sides and bad sides of everything, you know. Corporate cannabis, for me, is good because it destigmatizes cannabis for everyone. It makes it legal and accessible. It makes people who would never think about smoking weed because it's illegal smoke it. It's given me an opportunity to have a life outside of what I always thought it would be, you know, like working in a kitchen part-time and hustling on the side, you know, like it's an awesome thing. It's also just not why we do this. We all talked about, you know, we talk about how this is for love, and like, you can't be a corporate overlord and have love. It doesn't work, man. Like they're not.
So like, I'm stuck in between. Like I work for a corporate, you know, like several $100 million, you know, like NASDAQ listed cannabis company. So like, you know, like the only thing that keeps me in it is love.
Well, and that's the thing for me too. That's what kept me there too, was love for long enough. And it depends. Maybe your situation is better than mine. I hope that it is, you know, like I would hope that most of these companies know that the people who are there, that because they love it, that they deserve to be treated well, that they deserve to have, they deserve to be, you know, like, I think there's a big thing to say for like the legacy people in the industry, that we've worked a long time to make cannabis what it is today. And that because of that, we deserve to have what we need, you know. And for me, maybe what I negotiated in my contract should have been different. Maybe I shouldn't have negotiated for a contract where I was making half all the time and making the money that I wanted to make. And maybe I should have negotiated for, I can, you know, kind of be more leisurely about this and I'll make a little less money. And it's just, you know, it all depends on what you want in your life and what you find. And I think that for me, I'm just finding that with my kid on the way, my situation is different. And like, corporate doesn't have what it had to offer me anymore. And I miss what I had in the past. I miss the cowboy days, man. And I know I won't ever get them back. So,
well, like, I don't know, you seem to find yourself at a place kind of ahead of everyone else consistently, right? So like
somehow.
So like, honestly, man, like I think with you taking a step back
into money, and I don't, you know what I mean? Like, I don't even know how I got here sometimes.
Man.
It's the love, right? Because you're actually genuinely in it, like for love. You're like pushing yourself away from the things that like kind of bring you down to a level you don't want to be at, right? And then you embrace the things that raise your vibrations to the point where you know, want to continue and continue that momentum. So I think with this reset that you're doing, somehow you're going to find yourself again pushing it super hard somewhere. So I look forward to seeing kind of where you land, my man.
I don't disagree. My love for it truly, I think truly like transcends why I've been successful in what I do. I really do love this. I love smoking hash. I love smoking weed. I love hanging out with people and laughing and talking about bongs and being able to, like, you know, talk shit about your jar and you talk shit about my jar, and like it's what it is. I truly love it, and I think that
that's what this show's about, man.
I think it shows in that in all my relationships in the industry, I have great relationships with everybody. I don't really have like animosity with anyone that I know of. Like if anyone doesn't like me, like tell me why. We'll like, let's fucking smoke a bowl and talk about it. Like I want to be homies.
It's cannabis. Yeah. Let's get high, man.
Yeah, dude. Like we probably have a lot more in common than you think we do. And we could talk about all that and it'd be really cool. So like I try to be on good terms with everybody. I don't want any beef or animosity. I want the love, dude. Love what you do. Love yourself. Love the people around you, and like everything will be good from there. You know.
Absolutely.
I want to ask, where do you see cannabis in mainstream dining? This is a question that actually stems from talking to Jameson, because I know he wants to see this so bad.
I would love to see that.
And fine dining,
especially in the fine dining. Excuse me. Especially in the fine dining thing. But I'm a fat asshole and I love food, so maybe that's why. But I don't know. It's not for everyone, so it's hard to say if it'll ever go mainstream. You know, I think that there's a lot of really cool chefs who are young dudes who smoke weed and are into cannabis, who in the next maybe 5 years or so, that you might start seeing them do the cannabis pop-ups or the parties. I know that I when I lived in the Bay, I loved going to the Cosmic Supper Club. It was an event that was like so cool. I had so much fun.
Talk a little bit about that, because a lot of our viewers don't know what that is.
Cosmic Supper Club was an event. I don't think it exists anymore. I don't think the project is in existence anymore. The two guys who were part of the project together, I think, went their separate ways and are doing their own things now. But what Cosmic Supper Club was essentially, it was a supper club, and it was kind of like you had to sign up to get on the list, and then like, you know, if there was seats, you could go. It was kind of exclusive and bougie, but you'd show up and it was everybody. It was all the heady boys, dude. And like kids would fly out from like New York to come, and Chicago it was crazy. It was wild. But it was like a 5 or 6 course dinner. Each course was paired. The chef is Chef Doja Chris, I believe, on Instagram, chef.doja.chris. And then it was organized by Slabby and Groovy Money. Some of those dudes, some of those guys who are just like Bay Area kind of cannabis people. And you'd see everyone there. There were all the cool people there. Glass artists. You'd go there and there'd be a table with all the cool glass artists hanging out. And, you know, the homie Lot Comedy would be at like every single one. He was always there. We were hanging out all the time. He's super tight. If you don't know who he is, check him out on Instagram, Lot Comedy. But it was just, you know, you'd have this beautiful meal, beautiful courses, everything paired with a solventless dab. And, you know, they before dinner started, there'd be a little spiel where they would talk, hey, you know, tonight's dinner is, you know, inspired by this. Chef, you know, he found these things at the farmer's market and was really inspired.
What was the chef's name again? Chef
Doja Chris. I can see if I can look it up, maybe.
I'll pull it up.
For sure. And everything was just awesome. Constantly different hash maker. Sometimes one hash maker would do every course. Sometimes it'd be a different hash maker for every course, a different flavor every course. And, you know, they would pair things up to complement one another. And it was awesome. It was an awesome experience. You would take your bite and smoke your dab and, you know, get a little bit of both on your palate and experience them together and finish up your food. And it was an awesome experience. We'd have so much fun. And before dinner started, you just smoke tough. Everyone was smoking, and like After dinner, everyone was smoking and yeah, there you go, Doja Chris. He would do the chef stuff for everything. The food is phenomenal. He killed it. So that experience was super cool to see. I feel like we may start seeing some more experiences similar to that in the future with some chefs. I know that Chef Joe Sasso, who I think was on some cooking competition show, has been doing some like weed type event things or like event. He's been more involved in some weed culture stuff. I think he did something at Made Gallery in Chicago. I feel like he did do a supper club, a special edition supper club with these guys before they stopped doing the project at one point. I'm not sure if that's true. Don't quote me, but I feel like I remember seeing something about that on social media. So there's some chefs who I think would be really into the idea, who would push it, but I don't think it would be ever like a thing where like, okay, this restaurant just does this. It'd probably be more like, we're going to have this event. We're going to do it 4 times this month, and sign up. It's X amount of dollars to come. It's also not a cheap experience. When you go to something like that, I feel like the ticket was not inexpensive. It was several $100s at least, if I remember correctly.
That was a Michelin star chef.
Yeah. Yeah, the food is fantastic. It was incredible. The food was and I love to eat, dude. I live in LA now, and like I'm cruising all over for food all the time. I'll drive 40 minutes just for pizza. You know what I'm saying? Like it's no joke.
So who are some groups that you admire or you think are putting out really nice edibles on the market there in California?
Oh my gosh. To be honest, when I buy edibles at the store in California, I'm always buying those Smokies gummies because I just feel like they're the best ones. I've tried a couple other things. I like the Wild gummies a lot. They have really good flavors. I'm not huge on their consistency, but their flavor profiles are awesome. They like taste really, really, really good. I haven't tried a drink that I like at all. The Michelada powder was good. I did have a Michelada, but it was also like only good in that it was like drinkable and a novelty. I think like I wouldn't go out and buy one again or whatever.
I enjoy those wild ones.
There's some chocolate bars. I honestly, I'm really bad at remembering names. I tried some chocolate bars the other day that were pretty good. Actually, it's probably about a month ago now, but I had a chocolate bar. It was really good. It had they had a bunch of different flavors, and it was just something like really unique. I can't even remember. I feel like a jackass now even bringing it up because I have no idea what it is.
No worries. No worries. Knowing what you know now and your experience that you've had in the California industry, if you had like an angel investor that was to show up and say, go do your thing, what would that be in the California market, or would you even enter the California cannabis market right now?
I don't know if I would even enter California cannabis market right now. It's really crazy to do something on your own. Yeah. I think that the best way for someone to enter California cannabis market is to do something that they're really good at and then partner up. I'd say one of the best examples is Fidel, who partnered with Cookies, and he's doing great for himself. And they're really just helping him push his brand, and he got a good deal. Like whatever his deal is, it seems to be working out well for him. I think that, you're better off trying to build a brand that has recognition. I feel like the cannabis industry in California is one of those wild things where you could come in with pretty much nothing but like brand equity and be like, hey, I have this brand that people like. And they just be like, cool, we're running with it. Like it doesn't really matter. I feel like you're going to see very near in the future here, tons more rappers selling weed, all sorts of weird little niche LA stuff. Like it wouldn't surprise me if you see like Brain Dead Studios out of Fairfax doing weed collab stuff. Just, like the hype fashion people, things like that. It's all like, especially here in LA, dude. All that's going to happen. So for me, I think it's all the cannabis industry here is all about branding and packaging and selling something. And it doesn't necessarily have to be great. It just has to be marketed well. A great example is I smoked some weed about 4 or 5 months ago on the market. I don't remember I'm not gonna like name names, or I do remember everything, but I'm not gonna name names because I don't want to badmouth people. But the weed was trash. It was trash. I was very unhappy with it. The bag was super cool. It had a lot of marketing going on behind it at the time. There was ads for it. They were talking about it. It had hype. They sold out the batches. A few months later, or a couple harvests later, it's back on the market. New bag, same marketing, new thing, same weed, same trash weed, sold out like that again. It's about how you can sell something. So like even if you're good at something, so many brands might just look at it and go, okay, well I can just do that. Like they'll learn how to do it and do it on their own. It's hard for you to say my know-how, my knowledge, my skills have value, because as a hash maker, like we talked about how the industry and how hash making has changed so damn much. We're at a place now where it's not hard to make hash. It's not hard to train a guy to pay him $18 an hour to run an Icon or a Whistler Tech machine or whatever, and to pull bags and throw it in a freeze dryer and make sure you change the oil in the pumps and to squish rosin. You can train someone to do that stuff. So where's your value now? Like Pure Pressure, God bless them for all their awesome products that they've put out and all of the presses and all the things that have made pressing rosin so awesome. But at the same time, they offer consult stuff. And if you have no experience or whatever, and you're a grower, you could just go there and pay them a buttload of money and they'll teach you how to make hash and rosin. And like me as a hash maker, I have no value anymore. Like I'm gone. They're doing this consulting thing. And like you said, I feel like where my future is in consulting. I can make hash. I can do edibles. I can apply a lot of what I've learned from cannabis to other industries. And I just want to be with my family. So I'd rather be able to do what I do from home, figure out some clients, bring in some money that way that's steady and stable, and do it through licensing deals or royalty deals, however it works out. It's crazy, like I always thought that weed was just going to be this thing where I sold weed and I had my pile of money from selling weed and I had my paycheck from my job, and it was just going to be that thing. And now it's become this whole crazy I can't remember the name of the monster where you cut the head off and another one comes out every time, but it's just becoming that. It's like every time you feel like, oh, I got it, I defeated it, it's just like, well, here's another monster of a head for you to deal with. And it just took all the love out of it for me. RJ, hold on to the love if you got it. If you feel like the company you're with is good, hold on to it, dog.
I've had my ups and downs.
Everyone does.
But like ultimately, like I'm at a good place. I just actually celebrated my 3-year anniversary on Friday. So like it's taken me, 3 years. And it's like I've developed a lot for the company. It's not saying, anyways, I'm not going to get too far into it, but it's actually this show that has reignited my passion.
Good.
The last little bit, I was kind of dragging. I was really actually dragging.
For me,
can attest.
This feels really good too. I need this because my passion is kind of burnt, for a hot second. And it's not that it's not there. It's just that it's kind of like, it's almost burnt out. We got to throw some wood on this fire.
The thing is that, and I've had a similar, go as you, Pat, and haven't, I've had quite a bumpy ride, but when it's more than a job, when it's more than a 9 to 5, and when your connection to this is so much more personal, it's so much harder to act and move in ways that wouldn't be virtuous with the person that you're trying to be in this community, because this community is your home. This community is your value. And like, these people are what you base your value on and who you want to talk to at the end of the day. And so like, I tell people all the time, I shit where I eat. You know what I mean? And
we all know you're not supposed to. You know,
you're not supposed to it, and so when you're not part of this community and when you don't care about the plant, first of all, it's easy to pretend, and B, it's easy to act in ways that are just monetarily focused. Because when I worked in another industry, I didn't get home and still think about that industry. It'd be like, oh man, I'd really love to fly over to this city and go to a conference that talks about commercial real estate. Like I didn't care. I was done at 5:30. I was fucking done. And you wanted to get me for that job, you could get me tomorrow at 8:30. Like done. And that doesn't happen with cannabis. That doesn't happen with us. It's something that you can't turn off. And so we have to move through this industry so much more tactfully than people who are just vultures here to just eat this carcass and move on to Bitcoin and blockchain or, metaverse or whatever else is hot. Like we saw it so polarizing in Canada that, it was like a line in the sand was drawn, and it was like so clear to me. And I was like, I know what fucking side I'm on.
And that's how I kind of feel now, is like this line in the sand has been drawn, and like, I'd rather just do my thing,
Yeah.
And if you want to reach out to me and you want some help, I'll help you out. You help me out. We'll talk about it, but I'm not going to come in. Yeah, you pay me for it. We'll work it out. But like, I just can't be there for you every day being this guy, like it's funny. Like you said, you shouldn't shit where you eat. And you said you do it all the time. And I felt kind of the same way. I'm shitting where I eat like all the time. And at the same time, I remember being a kid, never do something you love and you'll never work a day in your life. That's a fucking lie. Don't ever listen to someone who tells you that. If you do something you truly, truly, truly love, you're going to be hypercritical on yourself every day. You're going to beat yourself up about not doing it the best you could. You're going to get burnt out on it. You're going to feel shitty because you love it. It's like when you're mad at someone you love and you want to yell at them so bad and you just don't do it because you feel shitty that you even want to yell at them because you love them. It's the same thing. If you love it so much, don't make it your job. Let it be this thing you love. And if it brings you money, that's cool. But don't make it this thing that you're dependent on for money. Let it bring you money. And that's what I realize now is cannabis always brought me money. And now it's this thing that was dependent on for money. And it's like,
yes,
it's just
that's
different.
A really good way to put it.
I like that.
Yeah, it is. That's the struggle. That's the struggle of like it starts as
money's
the love,
stupid too,
becomes
so
the passion,
yeah,
then becomes the vocation, but then like it's like kind of like sometimes
it's hard too, man. I'm in LA. Everyone drives a fucking nice ass car. Everyone's got cool clothes. Everyone's in shape and looking good and has money or looks like they have money or faking it till they make it or whatever. It gets in your head, bro. It gets in your head about what you need and what you want and like what's important. And like, after stepping away from work, I've realized that what's important is my happiness and my family's security. And like living in and around LA to grind all the time, to work, to never see my family, to pay for childcare, to do all that stuff. Like maybe that's not the move. Like my future might not be right here. Those cookies look delicious.
RJ made cookies, so I asked my wife to make me cookies.
Awesome.
Yeah, man. No, I think Brian had some.
I was gonna say, hold on. Yeah, when Jameson and I were going to visit, shout out to Green Camel. We were talking in the car. We went to go check out an amazing grower up here in Canada. Amazing, RJ. And I said to him, because I was just like bitter about everything, and I was like, I just really want to like have some property and like grow my own food and like maybe have some animals, grow some cannabis, have like a lab, have stuff so I could like fuck around. He's like, just want to be a farmer. And I was like, oh yeah, I guess so.
Do it, man. Like you can. That's the cool thing is like what I've realized is that I've put myself in a box so much. I feel like I felt like when I first stepped away from the Blue River thing in the 9 to 5 here making hash, I was like, I have no skills. I'm just a hash maker. I'm covered in tattoos. I have dreadlocks. No one's gonna give me a job. I'm totally fucked. You know, like I have a kid on the way in 3 weeks. Like this is crazy. What am I going to do with my life? And I realized that I can do whatever the fuck I want. And that's awesome. Like it's liberating and I feel so free. I honestly like everyone anytime someone I haven't talked to in a while calls me or I reach out to, I'm like, they're like, so how you doing? I'm like, well, I'm not working anymore. The guy didn't really want me there. So he like let me go. I walked away. It's all good. And they're like, I'm so sorry. And I'm like, no, it's cool. I'm like so happy. I feel better than I have in months. Like I'm so juiced. My kids.
Bro, that was me years ago. I did the same thing.
Yeah.
When you purge negative people out of your life, like it's like when you don't even, you're like, oh man, that's
sometimes
I wanted to ask
a bridge, it hurts, but sometimes you just are like, oh, that fire is cozy, dude. It feels so good to burn that bridge.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you something.
What's up?
Because you got a kid coming in a matter of hours.
Yes.
I don't know if you thought about this because I haven't asked you. But so I have 2 kids. I've got an almost 6-year-old and a 4.5-year-old. And how will you raise? You're having a boy? Is that what you said?
Yes. It'll be a boy.
How will you raise him around cannabis? What is your thought around? Do you hide it? Do you hit bongs around it? Do you let them appreciate your glass collection and let them like see it and touch it and talk to them about it as medicine and also recreation and better than something than alcohol?
Yeah.
What do you think about that? Because for me, my kids, like when we grow, they water the plants. My daughter says the bigger one is always hers. So what are your thoughts? What do you want to do? Have you planned it? What have you talked to with your wife's spouse?
Weed's such a huge part of my life. I don't know how on earth I could hide it from anyone, let alone my kid who lives in the same house as me. Like I can't even go to the grocery store with fools not knowing that I got weed in my bag. You know what I mean? It's so how my mom asked me the same question. She's like, what are you gonna do about weed and the kid? And I was like, what are you talking about? Like weed pays all the bills. Like I'm gonna hide this thing that like puts food on the table. And like realistically, even if I'm not working as a hash maker, I'm still an edible consultant. Weed's still paying bills. It still puts food on the table. It's still a thing of income. It's still something I love. Like none of that changes. So yeah, I don't think that I'm gonna like hit bongs in front of him. Since my wife has been pregnant, I've moved all my smoking outside. Luckily in Southern California, it's pretty easy. It's pretty nice. And I'm not like taking a dab every 10 minutes. I'm like hitting a bong. So it's like pretty quick and easy to run in and out, even if it's like cold and rainy. Probably not smoke like around him if I'm in the house. If we're like outside and he's playing in the yard and I was like over here and he was over there, whatever, I'd smoke weed. I don't care. For me, my parents always drank. Not like excessively to the point where like they were shit-faced hammered every day or anything, but they drank alcohol and like it was never a thing that was like shameful or hidden or whatever. And like, my dad had a kegerator in the garage because his brother would come over and our neighbors were like firefighters and paramedic dudes. They'd all come over and like drink beer and they just each one would take a turn buying the keg, So it wasn't weird for me to have that around as a kid. I just knew that it was something that I wasn't allowed to have because it was for adults. And I feel like kind of that similar approach, like, this is for adults. And if you want to do it when you get older, that's up to you. But, you can't have it now. But the pipes are all in display cases and out and on the mantle and stuff. Like they're not really hideable. I don't really intend to put all of them away. I'll probably put a lot of the pipes away like when he's little, just for like safety of not being broken. But once he's to an age where I feel like I don't have to worry about him and I can put him in like a cabinet and, put like a little thing so he can't open it on there or whatever. Yeah, they'll probably all be out. And when he asks questions about them, I'll just be like, those are dad's pipes. They're his glass pipes. You can't touch them because they break, And, as he gets older, he can learn about them and why I have them. And chances are he'll just think that, I feel like if you make something into a big deal, it's going to be a big deal. But if you don't, it's not a big deal, and for me,
that's exactly it.
I know dudes who were like, oh I knew a dude whose dad collected like old like model cars. And he in the garage was just like shelves and shelves and shelves of all of these model cars. Some of them were like in great condition, some of them were all beat up. And I always thought they were super cool. But like my homie just thought his dad was a loser for having all of them. You know, those are my dad's stupid fucking cars. He has like 1 million of them. He's such a dork. All he cares about is those stupid cars, you know? And it's like, you know, now he's like, yeah, my dad's cars are really cool as an adult. But like as a kid, he's probably just gonna be like, yeah, it's my dad's stupid pipe collection, fucking dork. You know, like
that's what I think about. Like if my kids are like younger and like someone's smoking, they're like, oh, you fucking losers. That's what my dad does. Like,
Yeah.
oh, you guys are smoking a joint. That's what my dad does outside. Like he freezes. He tells me how stupid it was to go outside and smoke in the freezing cold. You guys are so dumb.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, who knows?
However, I will tell you, and Jameson's been to my house, my daughter and like little Millie, like pearls and stuff, she's like, those are mine.
She just loves them because they're cute little pieces of glass with like pretty stuff on them, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, and like I was looking for like pearls. She made me buy opal ones.
Yeah, for sure.
And like I have a UV reflective like little slurper top, and she's like, I love that. Where's the flash? Like, you know, and it's like, but the idea of like, if I'm like about to dab, they literally leave.
Yeah.
Right. And like I've got like an air filter that, yeah, and like they know the door closes, and like they know if the door is closed, they're not coming in. Or like if I'm outside like smoking,
Right.
they're not there. What's up,
Yeah,
Coach Brucey?
I think you just have to set those boundaries, you know, and make sure it's like a very just very much one of those things that you're like, okay, this is for adults. If you want to do this when you're grown up, you can. But right now you're a kid, so no.
Oh, and we actually had, so a friend of mine actually made taffy, edible taffy, and it was like stupid strong. So my daughter saw us eating. She's like, I want some. We're like, no, this is like for adults. So she got all upset. So I told my friend, he's like, oh, no problem. I mix it in. He makes it with distillate, which isn't the greatest. But he's like, I mix it in like later on. I'll make a batch that has nothing in it, and like tell me what her favorite flavor is. So like she got like 2 flavors, and she was like, yeah, beyond excited. And you realize like what's the excitement that they have for this? It had nothing to do with cannabis or it being for adults or anything like that. It was the fact that it was like, yeah, or like the food that we had that was like good, you know. And it's
You just
like,
want to eat what mom and
it's like
dad
the same thing with like beer. I hated beer when I was like a kid, but like I always wanted to try it because everybody was like,
yeah, for sure. And my dad would always let me have like a little sip of beer like once in a while, like not all the time, but like, you know, sometimes I'd ask like, yeah, you can have a little sip, and you'd like sip it and you'd be like, ugh, you know, like you'd be like, it's gross, right? And you'd be like, yeah, it's gross. Like, why do you like it? Like, I don't know, why do you want it so bad? And you're like, I don't know.
I just want it because you have it.
Well, that's the thing. I think that my parents growing up, they have like no recollection of what it was like to be a teenager, to be a kid.
Yeah.
And I don't know why or how they don't remember that shit, but I remember that shit so vividly. Like, and when they're like, I don't understand why the kid is just acting like this. And I'm like, don't you remember when you were like 16? Like my little brother was like, I forget what it was. It was like a girl or something. He was like freaking out. And he's like, don't you remember like being 16 and just feeling like your whole world was going to collapse because you like felt like you loved someone and you don't even know what love is yet? And she's like, no, I don't remember that. And I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
Oh, that's
it's so easy to forget for so many people that it's just like kids just want to feel like they're part of something too. It's like I've seen kids around weed every which way, from like the little wook on the hill with dreadlocks who's like helping water plants and like hopefully gets to go to school one day, to the kid who doesn't know their dad smokes weed, and you know what I mean? It's like you're a parent, you can do whatever you want, but I think that hiding things from like kids are constantly like put in this box of like they're a kid, they don't understand that. And it's like, well, they don't understand it because you don't want to explain it to them.
Kids are smart, yo. Kids are super
smart. They're way
Okay,
smarter.
You want to hear something really fucked up? And my son, when he's older, he's gonna fucking kill me for telling this story, but it's honestly the sweetest fucking thing in the whole world. So my son, he'll be 6 in 2 months. Literally like the sweetest kid in the whole world. So he went to school, and like if a kid's having a hard time, he's the one that goes up and is like trying to make them happy, and then we'll go over to the teacher, like if he can't, and like tries to make them feel happy. So he asked my wife, he goes, now I know babies come from your tummy, and I know they have to come out of your vagina, because we tell them everything. We're honest. Like, why make it gross or whatever, right? Or like silly, or it's not sexual to him. And he's like, but vaginas are small, and I've seen babies. They're pretty big. So how does that happen? So my wife's like, well, you know, it stretches, whatever. It's like, that's what labor is, you know. He's like, does it hurt? So my wife's like, yeah, you know, it hurts, but you know, we got a wonderful baby, whatever. And he's like, I'm so sorry, mommy. I didn't mean to hurt you. And then he goes, can I see it? Can I see what that's like? So my wife ends up finding a video like from above of like a woman like in a water birth, like, and you just see like from above the baby coming out. And he's like, oh my gosh, so that's what happens? He's like, can you show me from the other side? And he didn't like that there was like a little bit of blood. She's like, okay, I'll find one. And anyway, so she found one that was like suitable for him. And he's like, oh my God, that's what happens? That looks like it really hurt. I'm so sorry I hurt you so bad, Mom. And it's like the fact that he's like almost like 5.5, almost 6. And like the processing that this kid has, and now like the understanding that he has, I can't believe he's in like senior kindergarten and he has that understanding, and it's nothing to do with like sexual or whatever, and like he's going in so ahead of everybody else and in such a right manner, and I feel so good about it and the way he went about it. And like you said, kids are like so smart. Can you think of like if we all knew that kind of stuff at age 5 or 6, like how different your life would have been?
Yo, the stork brought kids at 5 for me. The stork dropped them on your front door.
And that's the thing. You got to remember, like, dude, I grew up in the Midwest where it's like the Bible Belt, where like everybody is like, you're either like, you know, at church every Sunday, or you pretend that you care about church and you go on the holidays, you know? So it's like this weird whole thing where like there's all this religious aspect, and like it's like I don't know, it's so weird for me because there's a lot of contradictory stuff with it where like you know, it's not supposed to be sexual, but you can't talk about childbirth because it involves a vagina and that's sexual, but it's not, because they're talking about a baby coming out of it, like, and they're like
the same as they're talking about a toe, man. It's part of your fucking body.
Well, and that's the thing. I think that kids are sponges. They learn better as a kid. So like the more honest and straightforward you are with them, and like the more you explain things to them, the more they're going to retain information, the more they're going to learn things, and the better it is for them in the future. Because now that I'm 32, almost 33, I like, dude, I had to remember how old I was just now. Like, I can't learn shit anymore. It's hard, dude. It's not.
I'm right there with you. I forget my age all the time.
Well, and that's the thing. It's like, it's just retaining information is difficult. I feel like if I don't watch the TV show that I've been watching for like a week, I'm like, what the fuck is going on in the show? I have no idea. Can we start it over from like the jump? I have no idea what happened.
That's because it really doesn't matter.
Well, that's true too. But like the whole thing is like, I just feel like when I was a kid, it was like, dude, I remember stuff from when I was a kid that's like absolutely ridiculous. Like I remember sports facts from a book that I read going poop at my friend Tom's house when I was 8 years old. You know what I mean? Like, how do I remember that, but I can't like learn something new that's important for my life? Like, God damn it, what's wrong with my brain? So
like that's like society and screens has like a lot to do with that, and like how our attention's been kind of hijacked with all this stuff. It's like,
this is true too. This is true too. And that's the other thing too. People were like, what are you gonna do about screens for your kid? And I'm like, well, I can't like not let him have a screen at, it's like crucial for life.
Bro, I'm an eye doctor. And like, yeah, the recommendation is don't let them like look at a screen until 2. It's like, what the fuck is wrong with you? You're not gonna watch TV. So if your wife's gonna breastfeed or if you're feeding from a bottle, you're not gonna sit there and watch TV or be on your phone ever?
Yeah, that's crazy.
In 2 years?
That's crazy.
Bullshit.
That's crazy.
And then what? When your kid's lying down on the bed and you've got pillows all around and you have to go take a quick piss and your wife's like out grocery shopping or you're out grocery shopping and she has to take a quick piss, you're not going to put on some fucking cartoon like nursery rhymes for them to listen to, or you're just going to like leave them there with nothing on, or you're going to tell Alexa to play something?
Yeah, for sure. No, I mean, it's crazy. Technology is crucial to life. I think that it's important, like, especially now. It wasn't, it always has been, I guess. Like, when we were cavemen, we needed knives or we died. And, like, as time goes on, technology becomes more crucial. If, like, you don't let your kid experience the technological advances, there's kids now that are fucking 10 years old are probably, like, way more proficient with a phone or an iPad than me. And I feel like I know what
they're programming at 10.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, these kids can do this crazy shit, and it's like to deny your kid from being able to do those things, which is like part of the way the world is going. Like, not let them make their own decisions for what they want in their life is like crazy to me. But at the same time, I'm like, yo, we're going outside and we're going to the park like right now. This is going.
Yo, that's literally the conversation I have with my son. He's recently got obsessed. I was talking to our friend the Juan over there. I was like, yo, my son just wants to watch Minecraft videos, people playing Minecraft and shit. He's like, yo, that's what I used to do when I was younger too. I was like, what the fuck? Why does everybody watch Minecraft videos of each other? So I literally say to him, like, it'll be like, he'll be doing it for like an hour. I was like, yo, turn that shit off. We're going outside. And if he says no, he knows I'm going to unplug it. And like, he doesn't have a choice.
Yeah.
And so like, then we go play outside and he's like, oh my God, I'm so glad we went outside and like had fun. So it's like, I think you have to have that balance. And I think they need to realize that, like, okay, you're the adult and so you can control it, but like, you're not going to deny them that because, as you said, kids are smart. They figure this shit out. And on top of that, you then need to be honest with yourself. Are you going to avoid the screens? Are you going to set that example? Because as a parent...
Well, I'm going to get rid of all the social media shit, I think. I'm going to get rid of all the social media outside of, like, business stuff.
That's a different story. That's a different story because that's just invasive for your life and not really great.
Yeah, and it's just, that's the thing. It's like, I can tell my kid not to have a Facebook or whatever because I don't have one. I can tell my kid not to have an Instagram and a TikTok because I don't have one. But it's like, the other thing is, we talked about it earlier. Kids just like want to do things that they're not supposed to do. I smoked weed because I knew that I wasn't supposed to smoke weed. And like, I was like, well, why am I not supposed to do it? What's the whole schmear about, what's that all about? Like, it's got to be something going on with it if they don't want me to do it. So that's
why I smoked cigarettes, not weed. Because then I was like, wait, you smoke cigarettes and don't get high?
I smoked cigarettes after I smoked weed because I was trying to get high. I don't know. I was like, I wanted to see what that was about. Everyone I knew who smoked cigarettes just like smelled like cigarettes all the time. And like when I grew up in Illinois, you could smoke in a restaurant still. And that was like gnarly when I was a kid. I remember that. Like every restaurant was gross. Like even like 5 or 6 years after they stopped the smoking ban, like restaurants still smelled like stale old cigarettes. It was so gross. So it was just like, I don't know. Cigarettes always turn me off. I actually do really like tobacco. I don't smoke it at all anymore, but I do really like it now. Like I smoked a lot of chops and stuff and I got a lot of shit from it from my friends. But I do like tobacco. It's just really bad for me. So I don't fuck with it at all anymore.
100%. You mentioned something earlier that I thought was interesting when you were talking about, small craft scale in your kitchen sink to, large working with vessels and your experience on both sides of that. And I wanted to ask you a question that we like to ask everybody that we have on the show is that, with your experience and understanding with the technology that currently exists with the Whistler Tech, the Osprey, the Icon, do you feel as though there's a limit on the quality of product that can come out of these commercial machines when compared to a hand paddled product, or do you?
Yeah, I think so. Not, and that's not to knock on any of these machines. I've smoked hash that came off a Whistler Tech machine. It was pretty good. Working for Blue River, I was running an Icon every day, the big boy. And it all depends on how you do it. I feel like if you run the machine with a lot less weed in it and run it for shorter cycles and kind of treat it more like you would a hand wash, you're going to get better quality out of it. I think a lot of people are just kind of running it for like a production scale thing.
Yeah.
And trying to push numbers because that's always what's important. But to be real, I think that the realistic thing about it is if you're hand paddling, you're doing something on a small scale, chances are there's just more love in everything from the beginning, dude. The weed had a lot more care about it. There were a lot less plants. Each one got a lot more time put into it. It was fed a much more strict regimen of something that was going to help produce the resin. It all comes down to it. So, like, I would say that, yes, like in my experience, just like through friends and other hash makers in the traditional market who work on a small scale, who do hand wash stuff, their hash is almost always better than things that are available in the market, you know, for the retail recreational market. But is that necessarily just because of the hand paddle? There's like all these other factors involved, you know, like
good point.
Some of those guys I know are running some of your favorite hash makers might make hash in a bubble now and you don't even know it. You know what I mean? Like, and there's nothing wrong with that, dude. I have hand paddle stuff. I have 2 bubble nows. Like, I have a whole bunch of different things to make hash, a bunch of different ways. There's a lot of ways to skin a cat, as the saying goes. So,
100%.
You know, whatever works. I think that in terms of like a bubble now machine, if you keep it super pristine and you have it like always with really good material that goes into it, like it's a great way to wash hash. It, like, takes all the work out of it. You're doing it on small scale. It's really, really easy. Like, seriously, especially if you do some like quick modifications on it, which are really easy to find out how to do online. Super great. So there's no reason to like stop using tried and true methods for making hash. Is the best hash hand paddled? Yeah, but it's also like usually grown in a 6-plant room or something. You know what I mean? That guy's like, yeah, I grew these 6 plants. I got this much. I paddled it all. It's fucking beautiful. Here's the hash. This is all you can get. It's 1 gram. You know? You're like, all right. You know, like, and maybe that's why it's so good because it's special. You only get that 1 gram, and all that love is there, dude.
I was gonna say there's that magical element to it.
Yeah, it's secret ingredient. Like, you know, anyone can make a cheeseburger, but that guy who really loves to make a cheeseburger makes it way better than everybody else.
What are your thoughts on melt versus rosin? Like, are you pulling the melt out of your
wash? Yes. If you talk to Will, the hash maker from the East Coast on Blue River, he can corroborate that I am a big proponent of pulling the melt. Even if there's just enough for our heads, because that's our treat, you know, that's the special thing that you get to enjoy as a hash maker. And like when full melt is for sale, I'm always very skeptical, and it's often not full melt, and that's okay, you know, but just squish it, man. Like, for the most part, like, if it's not real melt that, like, you know, and there's guys who do it, don't get me wrong, there's dudes who put true melt out, but they're not like in the rec market in my experience ever. And I think I've only seen full melt in the rec market a handful of times anyway. Most of that stuff is, again, traditional market guys, small dudes with small grows growing with a lot of love, and they're like, yeah, we squished everything, but here's, you know, we saved an ounce of 90U or whatever, and that's all we have, and it's full melt, and they're available. But it's like, I can't get that hash anymore. The traditional market in the States is going wild. I don't know what happened, but weed's either dirt cheap and horrible, or so expensive and insanely fire that, like, I can't even get it. Even if I wanted it, I can't have it. Like I don't know what's going on, but like all the good weed is like gone. Or if it's available, they're like, yeah, the pack is 8,200. And you're like, what? And they're like, well, it comes with bags. And I'm like, I don't care about the bags. I'm trying to smoke this thing. Get out of here.
Bags. Like, give me the without the bag.
I'm trying to buy in bulk so that I pay less. What are you doing to me?
How much are those bags? Like $6,000?
Yeah.
Dude, it's crazy. It's crazy. And I mean, it's the wild stuff. It's all that like crazy hype weed, the blue Zushi, the yellow Zushi.
The black Zope.
I saw Cash Tree Mason at Puffco's PuffCon event. He's an old friend. I hadn't seen him in a hot minute. And he's like, "What's up?" I didn't even recognize him. He had like a beard, or he looked totally different. Maybe he was shaved. I don't know. He looked totally different than the last time I seen him. But I was like, "Oh shit, Cash!" And I was like, "So what's up? You got some weed? Can I get some weed?" He's like, "Oh yeah, here's a nug." And he like gave me a nug, and I was like, "This is a joke? Like, what is this? A joke?" And he's like, "Yeah, I don't have any weed too." I was like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "It's gone, dog. It's gone before it's chopped down, dog." What? He's like, "Yeah, dude. It's impossible to get like." And I used to get weed from him for like $150 an ounce. He was like the homie, you know, like back in the day.
Yeah.
I tell people that, and they're like,
it's the same
"No
up here."
way." Huh?
Same up here.
Yeah, and dude, and his weed's incredible, veganic, that grandma's cookies and cookie dough cuts that are just super fire. The Starburst, he has like all these great strains and grows great weed. And he's just cool, you know. I like dude. He's really chilling. And you know, the weed slowly got more and more expensive, and I was still buying it up until it was like $350 a zip or something. And I was like, I'm out, dog. I'm stepped away. And I had a kid from Chicago tell me that he paid $1,250 for an ounce of weed from homie. Yeah.
Whoa.
That's what I'm saying. It's insane.
Good.
It's insane.
I'm forgetting those numbers.
What the fuck?
That's what I'm saying. It's crazy. Like the shit that I would like to be smoking and that I used to smoke no problem was just like gone. It doesn't exist anymore because it's been swooped up into this super high-end connoisseur tap market that I don't even know where it came from.
Too
What
many
do you
fucking-
attribute-
I'm just trying to smoke that weed. I'm not trying to sell it or anything. I'm just trying to get like, you know, I'm just trying to get a QP to smoke on for the head. You know, what's up?
$20
I'm
a
just trying to
gram
get high, bro.
flour. Like that's
Yeah.
fucking bananas.
It's insane, dude.
That's
It's
wild.
insane. The market's wild. And then like the companies that sell all the good traditional market hash, you know, the jars are, you know, sometimes you'll find hash in there where it's like a 2-gram jar for like $180 or $175, but like they're typically $200, $220. I've seen them higher, $250. You know, it's nuts. It's wild.
Wild.
And that's like all the stuff I want to be smoking on. It's like yeah, dude.
42 a gram. Sorry,
Yeah, dude, I know.
$42 a gram cannabis.
But it's not like Cash is getting that for it, you know. He's like
No,
someone
but
bought
like
it from
that's
Cash.
like that. Like on what level does a $42 like gram of like?
Bro, you put me
unprocessed-
on an island, and I don't have.
Yeah,
good-
okay. I get you. Like certain islands maybe.
But you're
but
not
like,
on an
like,
island. You're in Chicago. There's other good weed that's not $42 a gram.
Oh yeah. No,
Nobody
I'm not-
will fucking grow weed in their basement.
The thing is, it's not about it's not even about it's not about the weed at that point. It's like buying a Louis bag. You're buying a Louis bag, you know. You're buying it to show off. The only difference is the Louis bag sticks around for a long time, and the weed's gone in 3 blunts.
oh,
That's
Well,
right.
not 3 blunts, but like
Yo, you're not keeping that for 3 months. Yeah, who are you joking?
No, well, no, I said 3 blunts. I meant more
3
like
blunts.
6 blunts.
Oh,
yeah,
5 or
okay,
6
okay.
blunts probably for me. I roll fat blunts, but
Damn. Yeah, those are fat blunts.
yeah, gorilla fingers, 8th minimum in a blunt.
So we talked a little bit about it, but I always like to get it at the end of the show from everyone. Pat, is your advice for people in the industry looking to stay in the industry, and then your advice for people looking to get in the industry who are outside the industry. I'm sure you get those questions a lot, and I'd love to get your insight on them.
If you're in the industry and you're looking to stay in the industry, I think you really need to find a way to give yourself value and make sure that, you know, it can't get broken down and put into a box and monetized for a much lower price point than you feel like you're worth. It's tough. It's a tough thing to stay in.
Do you feel as though, do you advise people, like, and I'm just interrupting because I know you come from the old community where it was just so much sharing and there was just so much sharing of information. And then I feel like some individuals who come from that community continue that sharing and they really get taken advantage of. And so kind of understanding that
it sucks. It sucks, but yeah, no, like, don't share all your information. Protect yourself. Contract up, paper up, make sure you're protected. Get a good lawyer. Like, you know what I mean? Like, do all that stuff. I think that people do get taken advantage of. It's a total bummer when it happens. And people from the old community, we were very gates open. Come on in, dude. Like, let's learn shit together, because we were learning, and it was about sharing information amongst one another because it wasn't a legal industry. We had to do it amongst one another. There was no other platform for growth to happen. So the community around cannabis is one that's like we've talked about this whole time. There's a lot of people who love it. You know, they love that shit. They've made it their whole lives. And don't give up what you've made your whole life very easily. Don't get me twisted. I don't feel like that's what's happened to me. You know, like, I feel like I've given a lot to Blue River. I feel like I'm still involved with Tony. I'm on great terms with him. I'm part of that team in a sense. So
you're just speaking in generality.
I'm just speaking in generality from what I see in the industry all the time.
Absolutely.
I feel like don't give up what you've worked your whole life to develop for yourself very easily. Don't just give that information to someone because they have a smile on their face and they like you, like, in that moment, doesn't mean that that's their long-term motivation. I think that if I had advice for people trying to come into the California cannabis industry, it's don't. As much as that makes me sad to say, don't. California is crazy. It's expensive to live here. It's hard to live here. The recreational industry does not. The positions that we feel are valuable because we've done them our whole lives as like labor guys, because we were running our shit and doing your thing, whether it's you're a grower and you're a master grower and you work that shit, you have value for that. Don't let some company break you down and tell you deserve $55,000 a year or less because you're a great grower and like they're trying to make it sound like they're doing something good for you by that. Like, that's not true. Like, just, I don't know. It's hard. It's really hard to say. Like, if your situation is good and you have a partner, you can come in and figure something out. Like, maybe there's a golden moment. Maybe, but again, your partner has to be right. Your partner has to be a player, like, in the game. They have to actually care about you. So, like, do you know that they do?
Yeah.
It's rough. It's a rough scene. I wouldn't recommend trying to get into it if you're not involved, especially if you're like trying to come from the idea of like, I'm a grower, I know how to trim, I know how to do all these things. Like, a lot of people come to me and say they have these like skills, or like friends from Illinois are like, oh, I can trim weed, I've grown weed, I worked at this trim here. And I'm like, dog, just stay there. Like, don't. And I don't mean that like, if you want to come to California, come to California. It was the best thing I ever did in my entire life. But it's hard. It's fucking hard. Dude.
We're seeing a mass exodus happen of a lot of people.
No, it is. It's totally happening. A lot of people are leaving, and I might be one of them. You know, I might be leaving here in the near future, not because I want to, but because it's what's right. It's what's right in the moment. And I think it's just an industry it's too little, too late to try to get into. Almost like, you know, unless you can really show up with big money investors and do it yourself, vertical integrate or something, it's a really hard thing to just step in and like hold the door open. There's a lot of people trying to push it closed on you.
Absolutely, Pat. Well,
California's lit. Yeah. Don't let that scare you. Like, find something else and come here anyway, you know, like, it's awesome.
Yeah.
But cannabis just ain't it, man. Like, at least not right now. I think that there's room for change. I think that there's a lot of room for change and a lot of room for growth. But what's happening right now is I just see all the big players in the industry really like taking over and pushing a lot of small people out, and it's just hard, man. It's hard to stick around, and it's hard to know whether or not you're doing it because you love it and it's good for you, or because you love it and you can't let go.
100%. So you mentioned a couple individuals in your story of sort of your come up through the years, but are there who were the most influential people through your journey? Shouting them out now, just give you a chance to sort of shout those people out.
Oh man, God, in my life, the people who've been inspirational for my journey, it's so hard to say. Corby and Space, for sure, were huge. Huge influence in like making hash on a large scale. Not just that though, but like giving me a chance, letting me move into their house when I was essentially broke. I had like $400. I lived on the couch. They just and they didn't know me. Like, my friend Bridget was dating Corby at the time, and she let me in, or she like got me into the circle, and they like took a chance on me. So like them for sure. Tony gave me a ton of stability in my life when I really needed it. My wife, she's awesome. She's my rock. And she's so supportive. I don't know. I feel like those are my top three for sure. Like Space and Corby are kind of an entity because they're literally like brothers. And I don't know. I don't know what I'd do without those two.
That's awesome. Man. So how can people find you going forward? I know you're at Blackwork and Boro. I think you've got another.
You can find me there. I have another Instagram that's just Leaf Eater Edibles. You can find me there. That'll be my console page. There's nothing on it right now. I have been, like I said, in baby mode.
Absolutely.
And in work mode with Blue River for so long that I haven't really been doing too much with marketing that brand, because it was, I've been doing the project with Blue River to get the edible going for them, the edible line going for them and stuff. So I was like, okay, let me get this contract up, and then I'll get some stuff posted and get some things going. So that's all kind of in progress. You can find me there. You can find me at Blackwork and Boro. You can reach out to me there. I also am trying to get a cool thing going with like a movie night thing with some of those supper club people that I talked about earlier. That project, some of the people involved in that project, I've been talking to them about doing a thing called Astral Cinema or Astral Projection Cinema Club. I have an Instagram for that too. There's also nothing on it currently. But yeah, I'll be around. Reach out to me. Anyone who wants to talk about consult, just reach out at any of my pages and we'll talk. I'm more than happy to. Thanks so much, guys. I had such an awesome time for it.
Hey, man.
Thank you so much for spending some time with us.
Yeah, man. It was great. I feel like it's just good to talk about weed in a positive manner. It's been a lot of I told a buddy of mine, like, I've never cried more about weed in my entire life than like the last couple of years of my life. And it feels good to be so positive about it. It's 100%. Great.
100%, bro. That's what this is about. And we appreciate you coming on. We appreciate you taking the time. And we're definitely going to love to have you back on and hear more about what you're up to in the future, man.
Yeah, thanks so much, guys. It was really awesome.
Absolutely.
Love to come back.
So much,
yeah, thank you for coming on and sharing. And congratulations on the upcoming baby. Can't wait to hopefully meet him.
So excited.
Yeah, next time he'll be around. He'll be my co-star.
That's dope.
I love it. All right, buddy. We'll talk soon. Have a good evening, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Take care, everyone. Again, please like.